What is going on, guys? We are back, and unfortunately I wasn't able to get this video yesterday. Unfortunately, sets drop on the last day of the month, and unfortunately the last day of the month I always have to work doubles, and so unfortunately I'm doing like 7 a.m. to like 9 p.m. and then I'm usually working this morning, so this video is coming out a little bit later, unfortunately, but I wanted to get my reactions to all the new cards. I have opened some packs on my own, but I don't have anything concrete yet to be able to make full decks. I am cooking because I am seeing these cards, so hopefully at some point in the near future, probably next week, I think I'll start having some videos out. I want to start doing maybe 2 or 3 videos a week on different decks, and I want to actually climb the ladder with them and actually have like a fairly, maybe like 2 to 3 minute introduction to the video and kind of talk about the cards, and then I want to actually play games on the ladder with them. So all the decks that I'm going to make are going to be fairly try to be competitive anyways, but obviously with every new set, we don't know the meta yet. We don't know what it looks like, but I did want to give my overall impressions on the card. So starting off with the grass types, we have a new Execute. This Execute is a 2 energy Pokemon. It's nothing really special. I still think that the one from Genetic Apex and even the one from Mythical Island are slightly better. But overall, they have to put it Execute when they put out a new Alolan Exeggutor, and this one is the absolute troll job of a lifetime. So 3 energy to flip a coin to do 150 or do nothing. I don't know how I feel about this. I think the high risk, high reward is really cool. Grass types have a little bit more options for recovery than some other types. It's a non-EX Pokemon, I just think that 150 or nothing is gonna feel really bad when you don't hit it, and yeah. So overall, I think this card is probably not overly usable. I think the doing nothing, doing 150 is just too high of a ratio. Surskit is basically just a little mini Eevee, quick attack for 10, flip a coin to do 20 more. Masquerain 1 energy for 40 is okay, but it's on a 1-stage evolution and that doesn't have 100 HP, and so it's overall not very great. Practice 2 energy filler card. Carablast does evolve into a Scavalier and stuff, right? So a colorless 1 energy is pretty good. A Scavalier we'll talk about a little later, but overall as a basic, it's fine. Phantump makes me a little sad. The Phantump design is good, right? Hook for 20, it's a generic basic. And then this Trevenant card to me is a little underwhelming. 130 HP. I would have liked to see this as an EX, but unfortunately, it'll come out someday. But for right now, Trevenant is just a 3 energy grass type with 130 for 80. 3 energy for 80. We're now seeing Pokemon with 2 energy do 120, so it's a little rough. Or even look just down this here to the Decidueye and you see 80 for 20. So yeah, so unfortunately this Trevenant card is not the greatest, but it is what it is. The Rowlets, I like that they made a Sun and Moon version, but Skill Drive definitely functions better with Decidueye. And Dartrix, or Dartrix, honestly, a lot of people playing Pokemon communication slash rare candies, and they're not even really playing the Dartrix anymore. It's just straight Rowlet into Decidueye. Decidueye is pretty cool though. Pierce the Pain is a 100 damage dealing move for 2 energy. As long as that Pokemon has prior damage onto it, it's a scoping move, right? Very much like Luxray and things like that. So yeah, and you can play the Danny deck because it's colorless, and so Decidueyes can maybe be splashable as a grass type that can just deal damage to things. Razor Leaf though, for a more consistent, do 80 off rip, and so potentially if you have Decidueye really early and there is no prior damage, you can Razor Leaf and then you know, you're doing 180 over 2 turns, which is pretty strong. So overall, Decidueye I think is going to be really cool. It's one of the decks that I want to kind of build around first. I actually will talk about it a little bit, but I actually want to pair it with Lurantis. Is one of the cards that I'm looking at pairing it with. I think that's a pretty cool combination there of just all using new cards. But first of all, we have Grubbin. The one thing about Grubbin that's interesting is that the rest of its evolutionary line is a electric type. And so I'm really curious. They made a new, we'll get down to it later, but they made a new cape for grass types that has 10 HP more. I'm curious as to whether or not Vikavolt would keep it because Grubbin was a grass type. That's the thing that I'm curious about. But moving on from that, because this is really kind of just a nothing basic in it. But Fomantis is a 60 basic, right? Very standard vanilla card. Lurantis, though, is a 1-stage evolution version of Spiritomb. And so you have 90 HP. You know, you use that leaf cape or whatever. You get 30 HP instead of 20, and so now you have 120 HP Pokemon that's doing 20 damage to everything on the field at once, right? So you're doing 20 to all of the bench and the active, and then you can and then it's a 1 retreat cost that you can then go into the Decidueye and pierce the pain, right? So that's kind of the combination that I've been looking at early, just as like a fun little grass combination. But overall, I don't think Lurantis is going to see much use outside of the niche trying to pair it with Decidueye, but you never know, right? It's a decent little card. Marul and Morlul and Shiinotic, I don't think these cards are very good. I know they pair with not Mallow, but they pair with somebody specifically, and I just don't think they're very good, which is a little tough. But Bonsweet, Steenie, and Serena, I think this is basically a 3-stage evolution version of, like, it's a 3-stage Kangaskhan almost, right? Because it's flip a coin, this attack does 50 damage for each head on 3. You could also compare it to like a 2-stage evolution version that's a basic, that's sort of kind of like Celebi as well. And so I actually kind of like this combo here. A lot of people are obviously skipping Steenie. So it's just Bonsweet for 1 energy into Serena for 1 energy. Rare Candy lets this be a really good Pokemon going first. So Serena I actually think is actually better than people are giving it credit for. The other nice thing about grass types is that Mallow, I believe, just heals them from full but takes away their energy. So a 1 energy loss is not as bad as Shiinotic taking a 2 energy loss and attacking for potentially triple the amount of damage. You know what I mean? So I think Serena's really cool. I'm excited to use it. It's one of my more favorite grass types as a whole, and so I'm just very excited that's a card and we get to use it. The full art card of this looks unreal, by the way. So but yeah, Wimpod has a really cool ability where if it's the first turn of the match, you can actually retreat it at no cost. The problem with this is that you would have to have a Pokeball or Professor's Research and draw another basic to be able to play to even switch it out. Otherwise, you're stuck with this really high retreat cost, really heavy attack Pokemon, and that's just really painful. I don't think Wimpod is usable really at all. Same thing with Golisopod. If this Pokemon is moved from your bench to the active spot, this attack does 60 damage more, which means that it's great if you have another Pokemon in the front, switch it out, but it's a one-time 120, and then you're stuck with this kind of high retreat cost 60 damage Pokemon, and that's just not great. So I don't think Golisopod's really going to be anything. Dhelmise is a slightly better version of the previous Dhelmise. I still really don't think it's much of anything. You know, it's basically a... what's it called? Corner, basically, but slightly stronger, but an extra energy over like a Houndoom or a Arbok or something. I just don't think it's very good. Tapu Bulu, this one makes me a little sad. Flip a coin, this also does damage to yourself. It's unfortunate that Tapu Bulu is supposed to be the one that like heals itself and like has grassy terrain, and instead it's one that actually does recoil damage and isn't very good. So that's kind of painful to me. But so anyways, out of the grass types, I'm most excited about Decidueye. I also think that Lurantis has some niche pairings with Decidueye, and then I think Serena is actually fairly okay as well. But really, that's all to write home about with grass typing. Moving on to fire, we have a new Arcanine and Growlithe. Both of them, to me, I think the old versions are just better in every way, shape, or form. Arcanine EX is just significantly better over this Arcanine. I don't really see a reason that you would use it. And the Growlithe are pretty much the same, except you have one colorless energy in there. Except 2 fire, I believe the old one was. Alolan Marowak, I don't really know what I think about it. I think the fact that you're pairing it with Kiawe, right? So like you're guaranteed the 2 fire energy, and then there's a colorless energy that you can make it work on any deck. The problem is that you already have to be evolved into Alolan Marowak and then be willing to give up your turn to do that. Or a coin flip to do 70 or nothing. 70 nothing or like 100 and 40, right? And then there's also the potential of them burning. So like in theory, you're doing like 160 damage at max. You're doing 90 for 1 and then 0 if you're getting nothing. So I think giving up a turn plus also having an evolution on it, plus needing a specific supporter, I think it's just going to make the card not good. But the full art card of this is absolutely legendary and absolutely dope. Skip Fletchling, which I believe is a normal type, into Fletchinder and Talonflame. The fact that you can skip Fletchinder and get a 2 energy, 90 attack, kind of basic Firebird, I don't think it's anything special, but I do think that it's probably a deck that, you know, in a budget build, you could definitely use Talonflame and it would be fine for you. This Litten is basically the same as the Charmander from Genetic Apex, except it does damage to itself rather than remove its energy. This actually pairs really well in combo with Incineroar that actually, its 3 energy attack does 60 more damage if you're damaged, and so this Litten actually really supports this Incineroar really well. I think it's really, really good. If you decide to play Torracat, it has the same effect, which is really nice. So you could actually go Litten to Torracat and Incineroar if actually planning on not using rare candies, but you know, most people are going Litten into Incineroar. Incineroar actually is really good on curve, and so you do 30 damage plus a guaranteed burn is 50, and then a chance that they don't get released from the burn and do more, right? So Incineroar, I think, is going to be one of the better fire type cards in general. I think it's one of the decks that I want to be building around first. I only have one at the moment, but I think that I'm really excited when I'm going to be able to play it. You know, whether this gets put in its own archetype or whether it gets paired with one of the existing fire archetypes that we've seen, I don't know that this deck really needs a like Moltres to be like in a Charizard build, but like maybe there's some world where you could play with the Stoke Charizard instead of the Genetic Apex Charizard, and you could have 2 different Pokemon that kind of function very similar in their basic. You use one Torracat and one Charmeleon, and then you're kind of able to kind of rock out with like an Incineroar and Charizard that have a move for 1 energy. So I think there's possibilities here. I can't think of things off the top of my head that are abundantly good otherwise. I think Infernape maybe is another combination that you could use with this that would be okay. But overall, I think there's a very clear 1 card dominated the fire types in this new release. This Oricorio discards a random energy from both active Pokemon. Not fantastic. You would have to get this Oricorio in against something that basically couldn't leave and set up in the bench. And so there's a little bit of problems that way, but Salandit into Salazzle, a colorless into a 2 fire energy. You still have to play this in a fire deck, so... But the active Pokemon is now poisoned and burned, which means that poison does 10, burn does 20. So realistically, this move deceptively does 60 damage. At least on your first turn of it anyways, and it does prove that you can poison and burn at the same time. I don't know if this card's gonna be super usable, but it's okay. It's a decent little move. Turtonator is another one that pairs with Kiawe. You also discard a fire energy from this Pokemon when you attack, and so you're ramped just to lose the energy that you ramped. And so I don't think Turtonator is going to be much of anything. But that is sort of kind of the fire types. I think that Incineroar is just clear cut, well above the other. Looking at water types, we have an Alolan Sandshrew and Alolan Sandslash that I unfortunately don't think are going to be very good. Although I do think that they are very cool Pokemon. I just don't think that, yeah, I mean, Spike Armor does 20 damage, and then basically it's kind of trying to do damage to your opponent when it attacks you back. And I think taking the damage out of your control makes it a little rough. Even if you stuck a Rocky Helmet on it to do 60 damage as recoil, that's recoil. That's 20 from Rocky Helmet, 40 from them attacking you, and then you're only doing 20. I mean, you're really not getting the damage out of it that's worth it for this, unfortunately. But Alolan Vulpix into Alolan Ninetales is actually pretty okay. For 1 energy, you know, you get to add an energy on, and the next turn you could go for Blizzard. Does 60 and then 20 to each of your bench Pokemon. I think that's fairly okay. Kind of like a 1-stage, yeah, I think it's okay overall. Blizzard doing the 20 chip damage to everything. It's actually a little bit better Articuno in that sense, so and it's not an EX cost of being a 1-stage. So I think it's okay. It's also 1 retreat cost, which is really nice. I can't wait for the full art cards of, because we already have the full art Vulpix, and then you're gonna get this full art Ninetales in an event later, and that's what I'm hyped for, because that's when you can make the full art decks that look super cool. Shelter Cloister, irrelevant garbage, never using it. This Lapras is unfortunately just not very good. 3 energy for 70 on a basic is just bad. Popplio, this Sing Popplio is going to be the one that everyone's going to be using because it's a really, really good effect. And then you can kind of skip Brioni or whatever the name is to go to Primarina. And then Primarina can heal 30 damage from each of your water Pokemon and then do 60 damage. This is going to be very much like Greninja, except you're healing instead of doing the chip damage. So it could be splashable in a deck, but I think overall healing is not as powerful as damage in this game to this point. So, but Popplio has a really good effect. Primarina has a really good effect. It's definitely a Pokemon you could splash into a deck to be a secondary attacker that has a good utility for you. I think overall it's decent. Crabominable. It evolves from Crabrawler, which is in the fighting type category, and I believe it's a 1 colorless. And then it evolves into Crabominable, which is 1 water energy, and is able to do 40 on the first turn, and then additional 40 to be 80 every turn after that. So this is slightly better Exeggutor, but if you get switched out, it becomes a worse Exeggutor. But at least you're always guaranteed the 40, and I do appreciate that it has it. But overall, it is very similar to Exeggutor for water types, which is good. Wishiwashi, I think, is going to be a fun little combo. Basically, the baby Wishiwashi is able to search out another Wishiwashi and immediately put it onto the bench. And then Wishiwashi EX gets 30 base damage and then 40 extra for every Wishiwashi or Wishiwashi EX on your bench. We also got a very specific item supporter card that searches out Wishiwashi or basic waters from the graveyard. And so you can just, even though the Wishiwashis are like not great, you can let one get KO'd while you just build a School Storm one on the bench, and then you can bring back that Wishiwashi, max out your damage. It's basically like Pikachu was in Genetic Apex. So very, very cool, very, very high HP. It's definitely a Pokemon that you could definitely use with Misty, you know, and just be really strong. So Wishiwashi is gonna be fun. I don't know how good it's gonna be, but it's gonna be fun. to at least play within like a theme deck maybe. Jupiter and Araquanid, I don't think they're very good, and that's by design because ultimately you get a boss's order out of Lana, and I think just even having it as a one of support Pokemon in your deck and not even really playing is actually pretty good. If the Pokemon is fighting a basic Pokemon though, it's 120, and so like it's actually kind of like a slight basic EX counter, while also being able to pull anything as long as you have it on your field, which is really nice. So I think Jupiter and Araquanid are gonna see play. I don't know how much play they're gonna see, but they're gonna see some. This Pyukumuku is kind of what I thought the original Pyukumuku should have been in Genetic Apex, but yeah, it turns out does 50 recoil if you knock this thing out, it only has 60 HP. It's a filler card in the deck, it's a one of if you're gonna play it at all. I don't think it's really gonna see much competitive play though. A not very good Bruxish, and a very disappointing Tapu Fini. Obviously the cards that are coming out of this that I'm most excited about. I think Alolan Ninetales is actually decent. This Primarina is decent. Wishy-Washy is decent. Crabominable is actually pretty good. And Araquanid is good because of the supporter card and not because of Araquanid. So, overall, not the biggest showing for water types this time around, but overall, I think they gave some good cards for it. This Alolan Raichu is really cool and very splashable. We already saw this in the trailer though, so I'm not going to go over it too much, but basically for 3 colorless energy, you can do 30 extra damage for each energy attached to your opponent's Pokemon, plus 60. This is effectively a one-stage version of the Genetic Apex Alakazam. It can be very good, but we'll see how the meta shapes out as to whether or not it's actually going to be super usable. Alolan Geodude, Graveler, and Golem. As much as I think that they tried, regular Golem needs Brock to be good, and this doesn't have that, and also discards 2 electric energy. Makes it pretty tough to use. So I just don't think it's going to be very good. Which in turn makes Sophocles not very good. Although, with Sophocles, you can do 180 damage in one shot. The problem is that you're not getting this set up and attacking twice. Like, this is like, you're playing a one of this, and it's a really hard Pokemon to get going. So that's going to be a problem. Heliolisk, we just get colorless, easy to play, one stage that can go in any deck. Problem is that they made a Alolan Raichu that can also do that, and so I think it's overshadowed by this. The Charjabug into the Vikavolt, what I do like about it is that it's a 2-stage evolution. You can go from Grubbin and the one colorless into Vikavolt. 70 plus Sophocles is 30, is going to give you 100 damage, and then your opponent can't play item cards. Nice little tech card, but honestly, I just don't think it's going to be super competitively viable. It might see some niche play on some decks, but the biggest weird thing to me is that this is a really slow Pokemon that has a really low retreat cost. I don't really understand it, but it is what it is. But the all-star of this electric types is going to be Oricorio. Having Safeguard, making it completely immune to attacks from EX Pokemon is actually crazy. It can solo anybody who wants to sit there and just think they can just play EXs, and so it's actually going to force people to team build a little bit better, or deck build a little bit better, and I appreciate that this card exists. But this card is going to be very much a metal call if you're going to play it at all. I am going to try to build a deck around it, or maybe not like around it, but like with it. But overall, I think this is actually one of the MVPs of the electric types in general, which is pretty cool. This Togedemaru card, not great. 20 damage, flip a coin to do 30, and then you have to already have committed to Sophocles to get up to 50, to even potentially do 80. It's just not. Tapu Koko, though, is... I think people are overhyping this card. 100 HP is a little low, 3 energy is a little high for 70, and then it's giving you a free switch afterwards, but then you have to have something bulky that's set up to even take advantage of this, and so I think it's going to be hard to make Tapu Koko good. But yeah. Mr. Mime, they just continue to do dirty. Mr. Mime is never going to be good. That's a rough card. Sableye has Corner. Your Pokemon can't retreat, so basically a Psychic-type dark version of, like, Arbok as a basic, which is kind of cool. Spoink, my boy, can also charge himself up to go for Grumpig, except Grumpig is just not good, which is unfortunate. Lunatone is not great, won't be used. Shuppet with Will-O-Wisp for 20, which just ends up being a vanilla basic. Into Bayonet, for which also is a 1 energy, does 30, but also stops your opponent from being able to put energy onto their active Pokemon. If you can get this out early enough, I can see this being disruptive, but overall, I don't think Bayonet's going to be terribly great. This first Oricorio, the Psychic one, is bad. Don't play it. But the second one is basically, like we talked about with the trailer, this Ghost-type Oricorio is basically Marshadow for 1 less energy for its slightly less damage, and I think it's really, really cool and a really, really nice tech. Cutiefly into Rabombi is nothing special. Comfey actually protects Psychic types from being statused, which is kind of cool, and could be like a one of teching in some decks. Maybe not right now because there's not really like a major status meta, but I think overall it could be decent. Palossand is not good, Mimikyu is not great, and in turn makes Acerola not very great, although Acerola on its own is actually a very strong supporter. You're basically going to play Acerola with Mimikyu if you're going to even try to play that combo. Palossand is just done dirty and not very good, and that's just a problem. So, yeah, that's all I really got to say about that. Tapu Lele ends up being the best of the Tapus, in my opinion. Being able to just do 20 damage to your opponent's Pokemon, and then additional 20 for every energy attached. This is effectively a basic Jinx with 1 less energy commitment, which is pretty cool. Cosmog, Cosmoem, Lunala. Obviously, Cosmog and Cosmoem also get you Solgaleo. When you're using this with Rare Candy, you have a teleport Pokemon that can bring it back safely and be able to evolve for free. You have Cosmoem if you need one that it can basically negate 50 damage, but it's 2 energy, and so you're not going to play this. Real. And then Lunala is interesting. I think Lunala could be a nice support Pokemon, but 100 damage for 3 energy is what made Gengar really bad. And so I'm curious to see if the ability will make up for it. Playing a 2-stage evolution and a 3-card commitment at minimum, just to have it sit on the bench to support other Pokemon, feels like a really high commitment, but it could be okay. You know, it definitely enables Giratina to be a battery for something else if it needs to, but I'm just not sure about this one. And Necrozma, just not very good. Don't play it. Bad. But yeah, so overall, I think the hero of this, of the Psychic types anyways, I do think that the Oricorio is the definite ace of it. I think Comfey actually allows Oricorio and Comfey and even Tapu Lele to be kind of like this Psychic toolbox, which is kind of cool. And I think they end up kind of being the MVPs of just Psychic types in general. Cubone is a basic that goes onto that Alolan Marowak. Again, we already talked about it. It's not great. Hariyama is a 1-stage version of Pidgeot, the Genetic Apex one that's kind of like a Sabrina. So not bad. It's not bad at all. 1 less energy commitment to get a Sabrina at every turn is actually pretty good. The only difference is that it has to attack with it instead of having his ability. Solrock, not great. Drillbur evolves into a Steel type Excadrill. Timber into Girder into Conkeldurr. This basically is sort of kind of like having a Focus Sash with a coin flip. Girder potentially could never be knocked out and just does 80 damage for 3 energy and just lives its life. But at the same time, you know, 3 energy for 80 is kind of bad. You're trading an extra energy to have Gut, is basically what it is. I don't think it's going to see a ton of play. I don't think it's better than using Champ, for example, and so that's sort of kind of just that conversation. Again, your Crabrawler into Crabominable. You have 2 Rockruffs. You have one that's just a basic for 20 that evolves, and then you have this other one that actually searches for your evolutions and puts it in your hand. So this Rockruff here is always going to be the one that's used, the nighttime one for Rockruff. And then basically these Lycanrocs are not great, but they're decent, right? Flip a coin, discard a random energy from your opponent's active Pokemon for 3 energy. is high, but so you're not going to see that one played as often. In the nighttime one, you're seeing Bloodfang, which if your opponent has more HP than you, it does double damage. 100 damage for 2 is not bad, but Lycanroc at 100 HP is also definitely able to get one shot. And so there's sort of kind of a double-edged sword on that one. It might be okay. It's going to be interesting when they make the Lycanroc Dusk form kind of thing at some point, and see what that kind of is. But at the moment, I don't think these cards are anything to write home about. Mudbray into Mudsdale, too much energy, and it also has recoil damage. It just won't be used. Passimian, I like the idea of this card. The offload pass, when it gets knocked out, you're able to bring all the fighting energy onto the Pokemon that you choose to bring in. The biggest problem that I have with this is that it's an EX Pokemon. You're giving up 2/3 of the game to be able to switch like 2 energy to your active Pokemon when this gets knocked out, and does a little bit of chip early game. At least you're getting your energy commitment worth, like, you know, but overall, I just don't think this is a very good card. I don't think it's going to see a lot of usage, and Minior also is not terribly great. 2 energy to do 40 is not anything to write home about. Unfortunately, the best thing out of this fighting is Hariyama, and that's a little sad. Conkeldurr probably comes in at a number 2. Yeah, there's nothing really here in the fighting types for this one, unfortunately. Dark types basically get some really interesting cards. Alolan Raticate, you know, can discard a random item card from your opponent's hand. You didn't have that information before, so you're actually just attacking, and then potentially getting to see something in your opponent's hand. And if not, you just did 2 for 50, which is not amazing, but, you know. And the other thing, too, is a lot of people just play their items right away, you know? The one item that I think this thing is going to be really good at is taking away rare candies from people, and so dark types are just going to have annoying little toolboxes like this. Alolan Persian has a 20 damage buff. Alolan Muck is actually really cool. Alolan Muck is able to basically randomly inflict a status ailment onto your opponent and do 80 damage. I think this is really cool. Original Muck never stood a chance. This Muck is definitely way cooler. I don't know if this is going to be competitively viable because it's completely random every turn, and it will give you a different status ailment every turn that you attack with it. So it's a little slow to get going, but it's actually decent, I think, overall. I don't think it's competitively top tier, but I think it's okay. But it pairs really well with this Absol, which gets an 60 damage buff if your opponent is status conditioned, meaning that Muck and an Absol pair really, really well together. You can also pair it with Garbodor, but again, yeah, it's really just whether you want to run the technical damage and get potentially other statuses besides poison. If you want that other route, Garbodor into Absol is fairly good as well. Toxapex, I did a little dirty. It's a coin flip for every bit of damage. But overall, I think the best card out of this, Absol is actually really good. I think Absol is really strong. And then Alolan Raticate is interesting, and Alolan Muck is interesting. And then everything else is kind of just there. Alolan Diglett and Alolan Dugtrio for Steel types. It's effectively the exact same thing as the other one. Flip a coin if you get it right. 70 damage for each heads. So it's basically Marowak, like Marowak EX, but like 90 HP, and that's kind of a problem. 1 energy for Excadrill at 50 is okay. It's good going first, but it's not the strongest card going second. Pike does 30 and then 20 to your opponent's bench Pokemon. This is from the Aeroblast and the grass types. Klefki is another 1 energy, 10 damage, draw a card for steel types. Solgaleo, though, is definitely the MVP. We definitely talked about this in the trailer. The ability to be in the active slot with Cosmog, teleport back, keep your energy, and then when you're ready with Solgaleo, come back in for free. I think this is going to pair really well with high retreat cost Pokemon. This also pairs really well with low retreat cost Pokemon. I think it's going to be really, really cool. because you can lead with like a Farfetch'd or something and be really aggressive early, and then pair it with like Lima, for example, or you can pair it with like a Kangaskhan. It's normally a high retreat cost. You get out of there when you're ready to go. People are going to play this with Snorlax. People are going to play this with Skarmory. Like, there's so many things you can pair with Solgaleo. I think it's going to be one of the best cards in the format for sure. And then this Magearna, if your opponent's Pokemon has an ability in the active slot, it does 40 more damage. I don't know if this is going to be good. I think it's just a tech card, honestly. Drampa, I think, is cool for dragons. If it has damage on it, it does 50 more damage. It's 2 colorless energy, so it's actually be able to be used in any deck you want. Jangmo-o, Hakamo-o, Kamo-o. I really like that one's colorless, so you can get whatever energy you need, and then potentially get the other one in Clanging Scales. The biggest problem is that this ability is genuinely awful. You add 30 more damage to your opponent's attack. So this Kamo-o is just never going to be used, is effectively what it is. I think the typing is really cool. I would have loved to see some combination of electric fighting, and we just got... So, is what it is. They did Kamo-o a little dirty. I think we're going to end up seeing a Kamo-o EX in the mini set when it comes out. Same thing with Trevenant. I think it's going to be enough. Sure. This Tauros, not great. Don't use it. Delcatty is a normal type energy accelerant, which is interesting, but it evolves from a stage 1. So I don't know that's going to see a ton of play. Like, people didn't really use... not Blossom. Was it Blossom? That one in Genetic Apex that people were using to try to ramp Venusaur. What was it? Oh my goodness, I can't even remember it, but it wasn't used after Genetic Apex. Skitty and Delcatty are no different. Fletchling, you know, basic Pokemon, alright. Hawlucha is a 20 20 damage Pokemon for 80 HP, which is actually fairly okay. And then if you're playing a dark type Pokemon, it does 30 damage more. Very cool tech card that can be played in any deck that's weak to the dark types. I think that's a really cool tech. Pikipek into Toucannon, actually decent. Like a 1 energy 70 attack if you can rare candy up is actually really good on turn 2. So overall not bad, but it's a basic, right? You're not really getting much utility. It's kind of just if you need something, it's here. Young Goose into Gumshoes, don't use it. So it's not good. It's just not good. Stuffle into Beware, same thing. It's not good. Please don't use it. Oranguru, I think, actually could be interesting. A basic Pokemon for 2 energy that makes your retreat cost and attack cost higher for your opponent's next turn is really cool. It's really disruptive. I just don't think it's going to be very good. Kamala actually puts itself to sleep every time that you attack. Whenever you attach an energy. So it's going to be bad. Big Malasada, 10 HP and heals special conditions, actually decent. Fishing Net is almost exclusively, you can tell it's designed for Wishy-Washy. Rare Candy is going to be meta-defining completely. Rotom Dex, we talked about in the trailer, not great. Poison Barb is a really cool one though. Being able to actually have a tool card that poisons your opponent. Basically a Rocky Helmet, but poisons. This is going to be so big for all the Pokemon that have Venoshock. It's unbelievable. Leaf Cape is what I was talking about earlier for grass types, another just really good thing that helps grass types be a little better. Again, Acerola will be good, is a good card, supports awful Pokemon, and I just don't think it's going to be usable. Lima is actually surprisingly good. The thing with Lima is that you're going to be able to put like a Kangaskhan in the front lines or a Farfetch'd or something and let it sit there, let it take some damage, and then when it's about to get knocked out, Lima it back to your hand. It's a 1 energy Pokemon anyways, you can play it again. It's actually a really decent card. You can even play it with Snorlax as well if you're looking for just a bulky wall, and then play Berry as well, like on your second one that's built up in the back. Like, I think it's actually pretty decent. Kiawe can enable Turtonator and Marowak, but not very good otherwise. Guzma is actually crazy cool. You're actually able to discard tool cards from your opponent's, all of their Pokemon at once. It affects everybody. So your opponent could be playing 4, 2 Rocky Helmet, 2 Capes, and you can remove them all into their discard pile. It's very, very cool tech. I think you're going to see high trainer card decks play this as a one-of, and decks that really can't afford to have your opponent cape. Guzma is going to be a card that's going to be teched in for sure. Lana, of course, is Boss's Orders from the TCG. If you have a Araquanid on the field, very, very powerful effect. And Araquanid, as I was saying before, it's actually a decent little tech if you want to have it. It won't be the ace of a deck, but Lana will be the ace of that. Sophocles, unfortunately, just doesn't power up anything good. It's going to be bad. Mallow into Serena, I think, is really cool because you're able to heal up basically 150 damage almost for losing 1 energy, and I think that's totally worth it. Lily's going to be a decent one-of card. I think the fact that it's specific to stage 2 will stop some people from playing it, but overall, I think it's the most amount of healing. I can already picture this on Venusaur. I think I'm going to have fun with them. The full artwork for these things, though, are absolutely insane. Exeggutor, incredible. Morlil, as much as I don't love the card, it's really cool artwork. Serena, chef's kiss. Tapu Bulu, they did like the old Tiki Mask design behind all of them. I actually think they're one of the weaker full art looks. Alolan Marowak is amazing. Turtonator is amazing. Look at this Vulpix. Like, oh my goodness. Even this Pyukumuku is sick. This Oricorio, they did a little dirty. But overall, it's a decent card. Cutiefly has good artwork. Comfey, look at that artwork on Comfey. Like, just unbelievable. Cosmog has sick artwork. Rockruff has sick artwork. Mudsdale, look at this artwork on Mudsdale. Even the Minior, like, just unbelievable artwork all the way through. The Pikipeks, like, they're all just so good. But yeah, so with that, that's kind of my thoughts on the set. Also, they included shiny Pokemon, and I'm not gonna lie to you, it pissed me off. I got really upset that there were shiny Pokemon available. Now, I actually ended up getting lucky and getting a God Pack in one of the first packs that I got Gengar and Haunter in it. But overall, I think here's the biggest problem. All of these shiny Pokemon have the same rarity as these. And that, to me, is a problem. Like, the fact that you're already going through all of the pack points, the cost of everything, I would rather have the full art trainer than have a shiny Pokemon of a Pokemon we've had for multiple sets now. That's my thought on it. But, it is cool. I think people should be able to have it, but what I think they should be doing is releasing a shiny pack, is what I think they should be doing. And just everything is rare. Everything is a high pack point to get, but if you open them up, you'll get something. Maybe even make it that they just open less cards up. Like, maybe it's you only get 2 cards in a pack, but like you can get shinies or something like that. Like, they need to do something to make it separate. Because, like, honestly, like, this Gengar card, like, let's be real, like, Gengar doesn't look any different in its shiny versus not shiny. It's a slightly different purple, and they added this into it to make it shiny. Like, it's not actually a different looking design. Like, the ones like this, like the Champ, you can be like, oh, Hulk Smash, like, I want the Hulk one, you know what I mean? But, like, some of them are just not it, you know what I mean? So, but overall, I think it's good to have shiny Pokemon. I'm not against the set of Shining Rivalry, but I think they should be releasing these sets kind of in ways that you can get them kind of more on their own, and so, like, the people who don't care about these don't have to care about them, right? Because now they're just hindering you. It's giving you, like, 40 cards that are rare when, like, realistically there's only, like, 15 to 20, So, but anyways, that's my thoughts on the set. Let me know what you guys think about these cards in the comment section down below. Again, next week we're going to start having actual battles and videos and decks, so be on the lookout for those, but I will see you guys in the next one.